Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Joe Love, here to bring you another episode of Sports Overview Topics. It's another good week as far as sports go. Unfortunately, we had some hiccups during the week, obviously, with COVID affecting some of the games on Sunday. Get into that a little bit. As far as the NFL goes, week 4. However, still a good week. We had some good NFL action, some good college football action. The Mlb Playoffs are on the way, although it's weird because only 3-game series. But yes, and of course the NBA Finals is also on the way as well. So plenty to go over. But again, thank you for joining me. If you're new to the podcast, like and subscribe. How about that video? Thank you all. And get into the news, shall we? So, the MLB playoffs, as I alluded to, started. They've been short and due to the shortened schedule. So, instead of 7-game series, they are 3. But still, plenty of games to go around. The Marlins upset the Cubs, as I alluded to in my thumbnail. Kind of a shocker considering how they started the season. Pretty much, they were, besides the St. Louis Cardinals, they were the team that was mostly on hiatus because of COVID. But, excuse me, they wound up coming back. They finished second in their division behind the Braves. Wound up in a playoff spot, and they defeated the Cubs, and now they draw their division rival, the Atlanta Braves, starting today. Should be an interesting series. As well as the Dodgers took care of the Brewers. The best. Now the Dodgers draw their fellow foes, the San Diego Padres, another interesting series to go around. Also, the Houston Astros, they took care of the Minnesota Twins. They're playing the Oakland A's, who defeated their foes as well. So, I mean, the MLB playoffs is starting to pick up speed. So that's interesting. And as well, what's also picking up speed is the NBA Finals. The other day, Sunday, was Game 3. Game 4 is tonight. There will not be a sweep. The other day, the Miami Heat stuck through behind Jimmy Buckets. 40 points for Jimmy Butler. They beat the Lakers 115 to 104. It's still a series. The question is, can Miami tie up, or will the Lakers keep it going and make it easy to close out in Game 5? We'll see about that. But so far, it's been an interesting series so far. Can't complain, really. And then next, we have NFL Week 4, the recap of NFL Week 4. So we are a quarter of the way through the NFL regular season. Hard to believe, but that's true. but it has come with a few hiccups. So the Titans and the Steelers were drawn back. They were delayed because the Titans, of course, in the game versus the Vikings, had a bunch of positives uh, cases, and then wound up drawing case after case, and the game against the Steelers didn't materialize. So instead, it became a bye week for both the teams, and their game has been pushed back to week 7 in a couple weeks, which fortunately was going to be the Steelers' original bye week. So that works as far as them go. And then, so other than that, now, of course, Cam Newton. Now, I make my predictions on Tuesday. So I don't know that these final roster stats are the final drafts of the rosters that are going to play on that particular day. But at the end of last week, Cam Newton came down with COVID the other day, and they started Brian Hoyer. But I'll get into that in a sec. But was a good week in the NFL. Week 4 is concerned. I was good based on picks. Really good. 13-2. The only game that I picked wrong, the only 2 games I picked wrong was the Chiefs and the Patriots and the Cardinals and the Panthers. But other than that, I was pretty much flawless when picking the winners of last week. So, beginning with last week, the Broncos faced Jets. The Broncos, of course, they've been hindled with injury. Of course, Drew Lock, Cortland Sutton, Von Miller, but they've hung tight within these games. In this case, they defeated the hapless Jets 37-28. Brett Rippon, he was ripping it. Besides 2 picks, he had a really solid day. It was a sloppy game, however, a bunch of penalties. The game was just basically penalty after penalty after penalty. But nonetheless, it was good for 2 teams we didn't expect much of, or we haven't expected much of, because they've been bad. Well, the Broncos have been somewhat formidable. The Jets have been just terrible. And Sam Darnold, there was a scare starting the game when he was slammed on his shoulder, and Flacco had to come in for a few plays because Darnold was taken to the locker room. However, he seemed okay throughout the rest of the game. He still kept them in it. They just, like I said, it was a sloppy game, but Darnold, he may just be Josh Rosen in the sense 2.0 because of he's in a bad situation, a bad organization. I think I don't think the Johnson family and and Joe Douglas are ready to give up on him. I think they still believe in him, but they need to get more help around him. Uh, as for Adam Gase, likely they were going to probably fire him after this game. But at the same time, I guess, kind of makes sense in a way because you need some continuity between coach and GM. Because, I mean, they had just been, ever since they fired Rex Ryan, they've been just through coach after coach after coach and through GMs. But, I mean, Rex Ryan, although they kind of fizzled out after the honeymoon phase for being the 2 straight AFC championships with the Mark Sanchez, and they had a really good team around them. Now, when they last had a winning record was 2015, 10-6 when Ryan Fitzpatrick had a magical year and took them to 10-6, almost made the playoffs. That team is just far off as to what this team is right now. But, I mean, good for the Broncos at least, and good for Brett Rippon. So then cutting into Sunday's games, the Saints at home, I mean, survived an early hiccup because, I mean, their fullback on Saturday night, Michael Burton, suffered a false positive of COVID. Luckily, of course, it was false positive and everyone else was clean. So they were able to play, but that will take your mind off the situation because you don't know. You're kind of worried. What's going to happen. That probably wound up being a little lag on the Saints to start this game because they fell down 14-0. Now, it was an early touchdown by the Lions and then tipped pick by Breeze that turned into another touchdown. But the Saints, once they found their groove, they came roaring back and wound up winning 35-29. It was funny. One of the announcers calling the game after Breeze threw, I believe, a 21 yard pass. He was like, "Oh, well, now all those fans can stop complaining." I mean, that was just a nice little dig. Because, I mean, all the talk, the big story the last couple weeks has been, Drew Brees is washed. Drew Brees can't throw it 20 yards downfield. Well, he had 16% of his throws on Sunday were over 20 yards. So calm down. There's still plenty of season left to play. If you're a Saints hater or if you support the Saints. Now, what was the game of the day in a clash pretty much of generations? Tom Brady. Oh, shoot. Hey, my printer. I'm okay, though. Tom Brady first Justin Herbert. Tom Brady was drafted when Justin Herbert was 1 year old. 38 to 31 bucks. Now, originally it looked kind of ugly if you're a Buccaneers fan. Because, Justin Herbert was just dealing. He threw long throws. It was 24-7 near the end of the first half, and Tom Brady threw a pick six. Just get those out routes out of the freaking playbook, Bruce Arians, please. Byron, left edge, whoever. Anyway, so it was 24-7, at the end of the first half. And then instead of kneeling on it and going into the locker room up 17, Joshua Kelly, he fumbles inside, I believe they're 5, and then allowing Tom Brady and the Bucs to score a touchdown, go up, and 14-10 or 14-24, and they got life going into the second half, and they were just wheeling and dealing both sides, and the Chargers got a bright future ahead with Justin Herbert. I feel bad for Tyrod Taylor because of what happened. I mean, he's comparable as a quarterback. I mean, he won't make mistakes, but at the same time, he won't really win you a lot of games. But I mean, he did help him win week 1 against the Bengals. But I mean, Justin Herbert, the future is now. You gotta ride that wave. If you want a shot at being competitive this year with a roster like that, certainly you gotta stick with Herbert. As for Tom Brady, I mean, their weapons, I mean, they did not have Leonard Fournette. They did not have Chris Godwin. O.J. Howard went out with an injury. Unfortunately, ruptured Achilles, but they just got so much weapons on that offense. I mean, Mike Evans, Gronk, he's getting back into shape. Scotty Miller is coming into his own. He's just got a bunch of weapons on that. Cameron Brate, it's just they're finding their stride, and good for them. Next up, Joe Burrow got his first win in the NFL, 33-25 over the Jaguars. It was an alright game. First of all, Joe Mixon, he was in the hospital Saturday night with chest pains, and he had a great day against Jaguars. The offensive line helped Joe Burrow. He only was sacked once. Definitely are starting to get more comfortable. Joe Burrow, they finally win. And, I mean, now, obviously, they need that momentum going into next week when they go to Baltimore, which is going to be a very tough test. But good for Joe Burrow and good for the Bengals. I mean, I still think they should have won last week against Philly, but oh well. And another team got their first win. The Minnesota Vikings. They beat the Houston Texans and Bill O'Brien's last game as the Texas GM and the coach. Now, I'm not quite sure, but I think that Bill O'Brien, either way, the outcome still should have been fired. and it just was long overdue when you think about it, but so good for the Vikings. They stuck with the run game. Justin Jefferson is coming into his own, and coming off that run, give Kirk Cousins time, play action. Uh, that's their way of winning, and although Harrison Smith was ejected, um, their defense still played pretty comparable, and good for them. Now, Seattle had some trouble in Miami. Um, you know, they won, 31-23, but it wasn't pretty. I would say it was 17-12. For a while, it was very close up until the end, and that defense of Miami just made few errors. Ryan Fitzpatrick made a few errors as well. When are we going to see Tua? I don't know, but next week they face an injury-riddled 49ers team. Maybe that's the time. We'll see. The Browns, they diced up the Cowboys and won 49-38. Now, I mean, it was 14-14. Cowboys with the Browns, and I mean, you knew there was potential for a lot of points scored in this game based off the talent. And then 2 errors by Dak and Zeke, 2 fumbles, and which allowed the Browns to open up, and next thing you know, it was 28-14, then 35-14, and oh shoot, it was 41-17, and then next thing you know, Dallas comes back. Next thing you know, it's a 3-point game, 41-38. How did that happen? I don't know. I thought I was seeing the Falcons and not the Browns. So then all of a sudden, the great end around pitch to OBJ, and OBJ and the blockers did the rest. And OBJ scored a touchdown and basically sealed the victory for the Browns, who are 3-1 for the first time in 19 years. The first time in 19 years, the Browns are 3-1. But good for Browns. Cowboys, I mean, they're scoring a lot of points, but in crunch time, I mean, they're not really showing up much the first half. That's the problem. They're banking on crunch time to cover up these errors, and although these are getting to be close games, they're not starting off very good. And Cowboys defense stinks, basically. Don't forget about Teddy Bridgewater. The Panthers defeated the Cardinals. This was one of the games I was wrong on. I picked the Cardinals. I thought they'd bounce back over that tight loss against Detroit. The Panthers, despite no Christian McCaffrey for the second straight week, Teddy Bridgewater is still holding it in there. They obviously got a nice receiving core: Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore. they got a young roster, and behind that role, it seems like they're molding it in his image, which is a good sight. And the Cardinals, I mean, they were 2-0. They're riding high. I mean, yes, they lost last week, but it was tight. Still only a 3-point loss. Last second field goal. This case, I mean, I think Cliff Kingsbury needs to dial it back a bit. I think that Kyler Murray, he can't really do it all on his own. They can't just put too much on his plate. I mean, they got two stud running backs in Kenyon Drake and Chase Edmonds. They need to play complementary football, have Kyler Murray take his shots when he needs to, and then because they're becoming predictable. And, when you become predictable for a team, that can be bad news. And they've fallen two straight, and I still see them as a playoff team. They just need to dial it back, play complementary football. They still have a well-oiled machine. Their defense is better than it was last year. I mean, Isaiah Simmons, Boo Baker, although I'm not sure if he played because of some, but I mean, their defense has become better, and we'll see out of the rest of the season. But yeah, good for Teddy. That long touchdown run, especially after that grueling injury he had, was just happy to see. Now they're 2-2, and watch out for them in the NFC. The Ravens bounced back and they beat Washington 31-17. I mean, it was kind of expected. I thought the key for Washington is punch them in the mouth like the Chiefs did, and because they have the front seven to do so. If they could punch them in the mouth early, and then had some shots and make it close, make it ugly. This was close for a little bit, but eventually the Ravens just took it away. Dwayne Haskins, he hasn't looked terrible, but he's not looking like a first round quarterback in my opinion. I mean, I'm just curious, when are they gonna pull the plug and put Alex Smith or Kyle Allen in? It's just, how much of a leash, especially in a bad division, when you got a chance to win it, and with a competent quarterback in either Alex Smith or Kyle Allen, and a defense that is stellar, especially that front four. I don't know. So, speaking of ugly, the Rams beat the Giants 17-9, and this game was tight until one touchdown run by Cooper Kupp, but the Giants certainly had their chances. See, with the Jets, they're playing sloppy, and they just look like they're just not in it, really. The Giants, they keep fighting. They seem like they keep fighting, and they seem like they want to for their head coach, Joe Judge. Credit their own for, but I think he's a coach they like, and they certainly are starting to. They haven't been winning. They there have been improvements, and especially their defense. They held Jared Goff and the high-powered Rams offense in check for most of the day. So then after that, Bills beat the Raiders in what was a close game right until the end. The Bills uh, took away with it towards the end. Josh Allen, he just continues to do his thing. That offense, Stephon Diggs, that trade might be the trade of the offseason besides DeAndre Hopkins. And he is certainly a prime MVP candidate for a quarter of the season through. The Colts, like a bunch of ugly, close games, in my opinion. They beat the Bears 19-11. Now, I had a feeling, yes, Nick Foles had that really good comeback for the Bears against the Falcons. However, he is still finding his rhythm with the Bears because no offseason. That was only his first start with the Bears, and they just didn't really get in rhythm all day. I mean, they need to go back and because they played the Bucks on Thursday, and I think maybe there's a little desperation now with them. Now with the Colts, it looks like they're just having fun now. I mean, they now have the number one ranked defense. They have a wall protecting Phillip Rivers, and when he's protected, he won't make dumb mistakes. And Jonathan Taylor is doing a really good job at running back. Just hats off to the Colts. They were my preseason AFC favorite for the Super Bowl, and so far that decision is looking good. Facing the Saints, but yeah, we'll see. So then Sunday Night Football occurred. The Eagles somehow they're leading their division now at 1-2-1. They beat the 49ers. Nick Mullins, he made mistakes. CJ Beathard. Now, without the mistakes, the Eagles wouldn't have won. They would still been winless, although Carson Wentz had a good night. But the mistakes by Nick Mullins getting benched for C.J. Beathard, who looked well the last couple drives, led them down to a touchdown drive late in the game. But they just, those mistakes by Nick Mullins, he crapped the bed. He wet the bed, pretty much. And speaking of wetting the bed, Patriots Chiefs. Now, of course, this was moved to Monday night because Cam tested positive for COVID. Luckily, he was the only one who tested positive so far. But yeah, the Patriots, we should have won that game when you think about it. That stupid phone call by Tony Correnti and the refs for, first of all, took away a great play pretty much by Shalik Calhoun, Chase Winovich, and the Patriots defense, which should have been an interception. Shalik Calhoun should still have been running into the end zone. That was just stupid. It's just stupid. Then Brian Hoyer, he threw a pick, but he came back, let us down for a drive, and near the end of the half, and he does not know we do not have timeouts left. He gets sacked, and instead of scoring points, we get nothing. We just have, it's just still 6-3 at half. And then we come out with the ball. We're driving down again. It's like, okay. And then Brian Hoyer gets stripped of the ball, turns it over. Honestly, we should be ahead by now, but we're not. And then next thing you know, they score, and then Brian Hoyer is benched. Jared Stidham is in. It's like, okay. It was a great run by Damian Harris because Sony Michel was inactive. Damian Harris, he looks like a real running back there. Broke off a long touchdown run, and then Jared Stidham throws a touchdown to N'Keal Harry. Interesting. So now it's 3-point game again. So then, okay, so next thing you know, it's 19-10. It's like, okay, we can still come back, but Jules cannot hold on to the ball. Honey Badger picks it up, scores in, pick six. Okay. And then we drive down the field. Last chance. Jared Stidham with pressure in his face throws a pick, a little more on it, and Demar Bird was scored a touchdown, but I'm just our defense did its job. We held Patrick Mahomes and that offense to 19 points, but stupid call by the refs, and then Brian Hoyer's stupid mistakes basically caused. If our defense did its job, we should have won that game if Cam. I bet even if Stim was starting the full game, we would have won. But, the Chiefs ain't gone. They did their job. They're now 4-0, so hats off to them. And then the other Monday night game, the Packers blew it up on the Falcons. They just 30-16. That it was the Robert Tonyan show. The defense of the Falcons just didn't show up. And, Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones were both hobbled, but they were playing. But Todd Gurley, he had 2 touchdowns. Good for him. But when Julio Jones went out, because of course he's the one that commands double coverage, and then when he went out, okay, you just target or take away Calvin Ridley. They kind of became one-dimensional, short throws, and then runs with Gurley. When I started my preseason predictions, the Falcons, like the Lions, were one of those teams where I was like conflicted because they have so much talent on the offense side, but the execution, it's just difficult. Now, the Lions have looked better in some aspects than the Falcons. Nonetheless, they're only one game ahead of them with a win, but there's that. Nonetheless, 13-2 with my predictions. Can't really complain there. Pretty much flawless, except for the Patriots and the Cardinals game. Now, making my predictions for Week 5. A pretty competitive Week 5 coming up. So, we're starting off hot. Thursday Night Football. Buccaneers going to the Windy City to play the Bears. Nick Foles' second start. They're both 3-1. Tampa Bay's defense or offense loaded, but O.J. Howard out for the season. Leonard Fournette will be a game time decision. I just think that the Bears, especially with what happened with Green Bay on last night, there's a little bit more desperation with the Bears. So, therefore, I'm going for the upset. I'm going Bears to win 29-28. I just think that there's a little bit more with the Bears, and their defense can make a few plays to frustrate Tom Brady and the Bucs offense. Next up, we got, as for Sunday goes, we got the Rams going to Washington to play the Washington football team. I think this is when we get a quarterback change. The front four of the Giants held the Rams in check. I think if Chase Young gets back healthy, that Washington front seven can certainly cause problems for the Rams. So, and with the quarterback change, I think the Washington can hang it to the Rams, beat them 27-23. Next up, Bills at Titans. Now, the Titans have had 2 straight days without a positive test. So, the way it looks, this game should be on par to play Sunday. Should be interesting. You got 2 undefeated teams, 4-0 Bills, 3-0 Titans. I think none of the real starters have gotten hit with the virus besides Humphreys. I think that Derrick Henry, if they can ride him and have Ryan Tannehill pick his shots, the Titans can have the ball at the end and they can just hit a last second field goal. I got Titans over Bills 30-28. Next up, the Battle of Philadelphia. Or Pennsylvania, excuse me. Eagles, they got their first win of the season going to Pittsburgh. I mean, Pittsburgh is just the better team, plain and simple. They got the better offense. They got the better defense. Not much to say. Steelers over Eagles 34-24. Next up, the Cardinals reeling, having 2 straight losses, going to Meadowlands to play the hapless Jets. The Cardinals, I think they get right. This is a bounce back game for them. It might be ugly, but I'm going with the Cardinals to win over Jets 28-16. Next up, the Raiders going to Kansas City to play the Chiefs. Now, this is interesting because the Patriots showed that the Chiefs offense is pretty much vulnerable and can be stifled. I think that because the Raiders have a hell of an offense line, and Josh Jacobs is a heck of a running back, a heck of a young stud. I think if they play it right, I got the Raiders going into Kansas City and beating the Chiefs 29-23. Call it what you want. I'm making the picks, and I just think that the Raiders can apply the formula, be more physical, and hand the Chiefs their first loss. Next up, we got the Jags going to Houston. I mean, this is Romeo Crennel's first game as interim head coach for the Texans. Now, here's the thing. Both defenses are suspect. Both offensive lines are suspect. Now, I love Deshaun Watson. And of course, they got pieces on that at receiver. But I think that I just have a feeling the Jags, they just got more momentum for them right now on offense. They're just clicking better on offense more than the Texans are. So I'm saying the Jags spoil Romeo Crennel's first game as interim head coach, and they win 28-23. Next up, the Bengals going to Baltimore, playing Lamar Jackson versus Joe Burrow. Now, the Bengals they got their first win. The Ravens bounced back. I mean, the Bengals. I think there will be points scored. I'm feeling frisky with this one, so I'm gonna go with the Bengals to upset the Ravens 30-24. Oh well. Another division game. Carolina going to Atlanta, playing the Falcons. Now, I'm not sure what the status is of Julio Jones, but that defense of the Falcons stinks. It just rots. It's just like a sticky sock you left in the locker. No gym sock you left in a locker. But the momentum of the Panthers is just going on an upward rise, upward slope. I like the Falcons to lose this 27-20. Panthers win a touchdown. I'm just going for it. So, the Miami Dolphins going to Santa Clara to play the 49ers. Now, Ryan Fitzpatrick, they said, will start for the Dolphins this week. Cal Shanahan has not made notice of who will start this week for the Niners. I think it's clear I just have more faith, whether it's Fitzpatrick or Tua, that the Dolphins will win this 26-21. Next up, we got the Giants going to Dallas. I mean, yes, the Giants have not scored a bunch this season, but they have fought hard this first month of the season. And Dallas's defense sucks. Dallas's defense just sucks right now. Their offense, they score a lot of points, but in the second half, I think this will be kind of a low scoring game. I'm going with the Giants 19-17. I just think that the Giants, they're playing more hard on defense, and with an injury-riddled offensive line of the Cowboys, that front four of which is probably the best thing about the Giants, with Dexter Lawrence, Dalvin Tomlinson, and Big Cat Leonard Williams. I think they'll feast on the offensive line that is filled with injuries, and they'll do just enough, and the Giants will win 19-17. Next up, probably the game of the week. Colts going to Cleveland. Both teams 3-1. They've got a lot of momentum going for them. The Colts, I mean, like I said, they got the number one ranked defense. They got that wall protecting Phillip Rivers. The Browns will be without Nick Chubb, but that running game, I've gone back and forth on this, but I trust Phillip Rivers more than I trust Baker Mayfield. So I'm going with, in the high scoring affair, I'm going Colts 34-26 over the Browns. That's my sixth straight. Yeah. No, my eighth straight away team. I did not make that up. That's my eighth straight away team. Sorry for the home teams. I just confused. Next up, Broncos going to New England. Played Patriots. Now, not quite sure who's going to start at quarterback. Cam is asymptomatic, so he can get him back this week. But either way, if it's him or Stidham, Hoyer's not starting. So therefore, I think we get back on track. Again, it's a hobbled Broncos team, 27-18. Sunday nights, Vikings in Seattle. Excuse me. You kind of wish there were fans there, because this had a lot of points brewing up, I think. Now, they played last year in a solid game, I believe. Now, the Seahawks, they're just letting Russ cook. And if the Vikings, I still do not know the status of Dino Hunter. Um, maybe he could come back, maybe. But their first win, Russell Wilson has just been playing really well. I think it'll be close, but I'm going with the Seahawks 33-28. Then to close out week 5, you got the Chargers versus the Saints. Drew Brees against his former team. I mean, Justin Herbert on Sunday played against Tom Brady. Now, next Monday, he's got to play Drew Brees. Facing the two oldest quarterbacks in the league right now. I think it'll be high scoring. I think it'll be competitive. I just like the Saints. I think experience once again will prevail. I got the Saints 35-30 to cap off week 5. And another close game. Man, I picked a lot of home away teams. I just had this feeling. I mean, we'll see. But that's how it goes. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. It was a fun one. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll be back Thursday with my AEW Dynamite review. But again, it was good being on the podcast. Thank you all. And I'll see you Thursday. And click on that bell for notifications if you're new. Or if you want to catch up on the content, my predictions, my reviews, or just click on it. Thank you. And see you Thursday.